Recognized from Minnesota.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to all of you, or I guess it's good afternoon now. So I'm glad to have you all with us. I'd like to start with you, Mr. Scharf. So I want to talk to you about the Community Reinvestment Act. I think that this is a really important tool for making sure that people and businesses in low and moderate income communities have access to capital and lending and financial services. And I, for one, am encouraged by the new CRA rulemaking, which I think is an important update. And I think it makes some thoughtful changes to realign the CRA with its core purpose and to give banks and financial institutions clear direction on what activities qualify for CRA credit. So, Mr. Scharf, could you tell me how you assess this final rulemaking for the CRA, and do you think that these changes will better enable banks to meet their CRA obligations?
Senator, I very much agree with your sentiment of both the importance of CRA and the need to make changes in existing CRA legislation to ensure that the ultimate goals are actually achieved through the actual legislation. I think when you look at the changes that have been made, there's certainly many items that are taken into account which are directionally supportive of what I just said. Mm-hmm. We've given some comments to the regulators about some of the specifics that we would like them to just reconsider as they work towards that goal. But directionally rethinking CRA and doing it in a way that all the regulators come together is extremely helpful.
Thank you. I agree with that. I think having everybody being on the same page was an extremely important part of this as well. Another thing that I think is true is that these updates to the CRA regs were decades overdue. So do you think that it would be helpful for regulators to update these rules more regularly to kind of have a more rapid cycle? I'm not talking about changing rules all the time, but I'm saying learning from our experience and your experience to make sure they're working well.
Senator, yes, it absolutely makes sense to relook at these things and make sure that they're having the intended consequences, and just at the same time realize that all of those changes then filter through a lot of work that we have to do, and so just striking that right balance is also, I think, very important. Great,
thank you. Mr. Solomon, good afternoon. It's good to see you. Many of us are giving thought to how AI, artificial intelligence, is being deployed and how we should be setting guardrails for its use. And understanding that AI has been in use for many years, I think it's true that generative AI has gotten a lot of attention over this last year, and both for its capacity and also for the limitations that have been on full view. Earlier this year, Mr. Chair, the Bing AI chatbot urged a New York Times reporter to leave his wife. And just last week, it was reported that the Amazon chatbot experienced, and I quote, severe hallucinations and leaked confidential data. So my question for you as the leader of Goldman Sachs is, how do you see using this? I know that you probably have been using our AI tools for quite a long time, but could you talk a little bit about how the generative AI projects that you're working on, how you see these being deployed internally, and how you are thinking about the appropriate guardrails?
Thank you for the question, Senator. Obviously, it's something we're very focused on, and as you highlight, there are super offensive productivity things that can be done with the technology as the technology accelerates. As you point out, we've been using artificial intelligence in our business for quite some time, but these large language models accelerate your ability to use very, very highly paid people more effectively with clients by giving them access to information and giving our clients access to information that is sorted and organized more quickly. Those are the positives. On the negatives or the defensive, the technology can obviously be used to disrupt activities, to disrupt markets. It falls into our category of thinking about cyber protection and guardrails. And so we have an enormous amount of focus in thinking through how these tools can be used to attack our systems, our platforms, et cetera. I think it's the acceleration of this technology is going to continue. The pace is quite robust. And I think there are opportunities, but we also certainly have to be vigilant to recognize that there are things that are going to develop that we can't see, and we've got to make sure we have the right protections in place.
Thank you. Ms. Frazier, I just have a couple seconds left. You and I spoke about this a little bit recently. Tell me how you think about this from city's perspective.
So about 4 years ago, we put some principles in place for how to use AI, and topics such as fairness and transparency in how it's used, making sure that you can understand and trace the different algorithms that are in place, elements like that, and making sure that there is human beings governing this, and make sure the protections are there so we get the opportunities realized from it, and also use it to defend against the threats.
Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Smith. Senator Fetterman from Pennsylvania is recognized.